What do learners always think they need? Grammar. What do learners actually probably need more of? Vocabulary. And it's all very well teaching them new words and phrases, but if they're not recycled and reused, guess what's going to happen? They're going to lose it. How can you help them? A simple box. Actual or virtual, let me show you how. I'm Jo Gakonga. I'm a teacher educator, a CELTA and MA TESOL tutor, and I've got a website at elttraining.com where I make video-based material to help teachers at all stages of their careers. If you like this, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I make a new video every week. A vocabulary box can be any kind of container. I usually try to find something that's attractive, such as a gift box, but even a humble envelope will do. Inside, you put pieces of paper about the size of business cards, and after every lesson, record the vocabulary that the learners have covered on the cards. One word or expression per card. How much information you put on the card is really up to you. I usually include an article for countable nouns, i.e. a cat rather than cat, and the part of speech for individual words. It's also worth thinking about any other information that learners need to use the word. For example, dependent prepositions when necessary, to depend on rather than just depend, or whether phrasal verbs are splittable or not, to pick something up, pick up. If you're online, you can just do this by keeping a folder somewhere with a list of new vocabulary. There are all sorts of different ways of doing this, and how much information you include is completely up to you. You could add a translation in L1 on the back of the card, for example, or a sentence to show usage. I tend to keep them quite simple though. This means they're less onerous to make and you're more likely to keep up with it. If you keep a stash of spare cards handy, it's a really quick job at the end of a lesson just to write perhaps 10 items on 10 cards after each class. You'll find that this really quickly builds up into a really useful resource. So, you've got your vocabulary box and some vocabulary in it that your learners have covered in previous classes. Here are 5 suggestions on how to use it. Number 1, simple recall. The simplest way to use the material is simply to give out the cards to learners, perhaps 4 or 5 each, and ask them to remind each other what the words mean. You could also ask them to choose the words that they're less sure of and write a sentence with them, something like that. After a few minutes, they can then pass on their cards to the next pair and receive new ones. Number 2, what's my word? Pick a word from the box and give the learners a definition for it. This is an adjective, it means you're right. A teacher might say this to you. Well done, that's The first to guess the word gets the card. You could also ask them to produce a correct sentence with the word for an extra point. You can begin this as a teacher, as a whole class activity, and then you could give all the learners a few cards each and they can ask each other. They give the definition to a partner and the partner tries to guess the word. If they have a word that they don't remember, they can try to find out by asking their partner or by looking it up. Number 3, categorising. Give groups of learners a small pile of cards, perhaps 10, and ask them to put them into 2 or more categories. So these could be categories that you choose. For example, put these words into groups of words I will use and words I don't think I will use, or verbs and nouns, or putting them in alphabetical order, or you could tell them to make their own categories and then explain what the categories are. Remember, it doesn't really matter what the categories are. It's just an excuse for them to interact with the words and have further exposure to them. The fact that they're using the vocabulary will help to cement it in their memories. It also gives them a chance to ask their classmate a word or phrase if they don't remember, or to look it up if they've forgotten. Number 4, word association. This is a nice one. Put some words from the cards on the board, maybe 6 to 8, and choose 2. Learners have to work in pairs to make a sentence that joins them logically, or at least has both of them in. You could make this a team game and have a point for grammatical correctness, or also how original or how funny the sentence is. Finally, number 5, stories. As a longer extension of word association, you can also give a small group of learners about 10 cards and ask them to construct a story using them. To make it easier, you could stipulate that they only have to use 6 of the 10 words and the others are optional. You could also specify the type of story, a love story, a spooky story. When they've done this, they can then regroup and retell their stories to another group who obviously will have made up a different story with different words. Perhaps the listener could be asked to spot the words from the cards as they hear them. So there you go. Those are a few ideas, but I'm sure that you'll develop loads more as you start to play around with these cards. Your vocabulary box could be used as the basis for the whole lesson, or it could be part of your lesson, or just a 5-minute warmer or filler. You could also keep the box in a place in the room where it's available so that your learners can access it before or after class if they're keen. I hope that you find it a useful resource. I've used it in so many classes and it's worked so well. Let me know in the comments below if you've got any other great ideas for using it, and good luck with it. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.